Welcome, 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 and thank you for joining us on another episode of today's Electrical Estimating. I'm your co-host, Chris Trommer, and as always, I'm joined by our other co-host, Sal Huerta.
Hello, everyone.
So, Sal, we got Derek back today, and he is sort of talking about one of the common mistakes they run into with their Vision software. And it's right up your alley. I mean, it's something you've been doing for decades at this point. And what he speaks to is pricing services. So, what I was hoping is that you could maybe give a little insight into the different pricing that estimators receive, maybe in their software, what comes with it, and the difference to what that is or how it compares to what you receive when you sign up and work with a pricing service.
Yeah, there's a lot in there, so I'll try to unpack it slowly. The common misconception that happens a lot with contractors who purchase an estimating package is they think that's it. They bought this high-tech engineering program. It does almost everything under the sun and does a really, really good job of putting together all these estimates for them. But one of the, again, things that are forgotten is it comes preset with a database in there. And the database can range anywhere from, 15,000 items to 50,000 items. And then what happens is they'll use that database to do some, bids as soon as they, are familiar with their program, and then forget about it. And then unfortunately, just like everything, and even our day-to-day lives, prices change. Things go up, things go down, but a lot of times things are just going up. And so when you use that same database for a job, a weeks later, months later, the pricing could significantly be different. And so that's where a pricing service comes in that allows you to manage and maintain that database that you're working with.
The pricing service is going to maintain the pricing within the database. Now, is that going to be, let's say, third column pricing, or is that going to be national pricing or list price? What price is going to be in that database for them to be able to utilize?
Yeah, so all these estimating software packages come with what the industry calls a third column price, which is basically a list price for these items. And this is a manufactured a list price that they've come up with for these items. And then, granted, it's not going to be the price that you buy the item for. Kind of think of it as when you're buying a car, the price that's on the sticker that's on the window.
Mhm.
It's just your start off point of negotiating with the prices before you buy the car. The same way here, these are just national prices set by the manufacturer. But then there's also what are called a market price. And a market price is, for example, like a NetPricer has, is an average of pricing all across the United States. So that way you can get a price that's closer to what the prices are in your area, but it's more again of a national price. So you might buy better than that if you're a bigger, and you will buy better than that if you're a bigger contractor. It might be a little bit lower if you're just an average contractor, but either way, at least it gives you a closer price than what the list price or the third column price would be in these pricing terms.
So both of the ones you just mentioned seem like they're more averages, and it's going to give you something to start off of and something to work off of. But if you want to, I guess, try to get as accurate as possible, that the pricing service is going to allow you to actually connect directly with your distributor partners, especially I know with NetPricer, so that you're getting up-to-date real pricing. You're not having to take a list price and add a discount in there or try to figure out any differences that may be coming from that. But with NetPrice, you're connecting directly to the distributor themselves. So you're getting your estimate pricing for these products. Is that correct?
Absolutely. That's actually the genesis of how NetPricer began. Contractors will say, I have a price in my system, but I just can't put a 5%, number on it and say, okay, that's what I'm going to work with, because, some items could have a 70% markup on it, and then others could have a 5% markup on it. So it just depending upon what items and what you're buying and volumes and things like that. So when you look at individual, the marketplace, said we need to have individual pricing for every item that allows me to have my pencil sharpen the best I possibly can. And then working with distribution that allowed the contractor to get that. The problem that arose from that was you can imagine a contractor's estimating package with 30,000 items, and then the local distributor down the street who stocks 20,000 items. They're not going to be the exact same product. Maybe
Mhm.
50% of it might be, because the estimating software package might have manufacturer C, but the distributor down the street, the branch, carries manufacturer A. So when you try to get a one-to-one, it doesn't work. So the old days, distributor would basically copy the price file onto a disk of some sort and send it to the contractor and say, upload this to your system. But again, we're back to the same scenario where only 50% of it was priced. So that's where you mentioned that the NetPricer process came in that allowed you to not only get the items that were matching the one-to-one, but also have a synchronizing process that goes there and finds the item that the distributor has and then synchronizes your database to that.
So current, excuse me, pricing services, they not only update your database, but they're providing you up-to-date pricing for yourself, pricing that the distributor has given to you or deemed this is what your price is going to be for these particular products directly into your estimating software, which is going to allow you now to save time because you don't have to be reaching out to any of them or worrying about having outdated pricing. You can simply click the button, and next thing you know, you're going to get updated from multiple distributors. So you're sort of covering all the different products you have or getting sort of similar substituted specifications for products and pricing for those so that you can see, okay, hey, this is what I'm getting from these distributors. These are my exact prices. Let you be a little bit more accurate, more time efficient. Pretty much the gist of it.
Yeah, so those are two very important questions right there. And one of them was speed. The old days you would send a fax to the distributor branch, or today it could be a spreadsheet you send to them. Well, someone's now got to manually sit there and open up every item, look in their system, price it, put it back on the spreadsheet, and send it back. And that could take hours to days to get information back to the contractor and his estimate. And again, more than likely the distributor getting this information the day before the bid's supposed to close. So everyone's always panicking, trying to get this information back in. And then again, you can imagine if you're the contractor, you get the spreadsheet back, you have a bid due in 2 hours, but yet you got to now type in all this information back in the estimate packet. So that was always a big issue there that NetPricer solved, which was having connected the two together. It allowed the contractor to make his estimate, click a button, and then within 2 seconds, get that whole information populated into that estimate form. So there was no longer any waiting or errors that could possibly happen from somebody either on the distributor side or the contractor side, typing in the wrong information. Now, the second part to your question, as far as the synchronization process, NetPricer developed that process, gosh, 25 years ago. And so ours isn't a static version of it. It's actually a living, breathing process that we manage and maintain every single day. So because of that, when it comes to this synchronization of the database and this estimate that came through, it automatically is going to pick the right information that distributor carries. And plus, it's going to flag it for you within your estimating package and tell you, I know you chose manufacturer C, but your distributor stocks manufacturer A. Here's his information and here's his price.
This sounds great, especially, in the times we're living in where we see fluctuations in pricing with changing circumstances that are sort of out of our control that, we've talked with contractors in the past. They do the estimate and this can be a year long. I think Nick said 18 months they worked on a project and then they don't know if they won the bid for a while. And then the time comes and they did, and they need to know their pricing then too. And it seems like this allows them that quick and easy access to continuously sort of check in on the pricing for a project to go, okay, hey, we did pricing a month ago, and now let's check into the pricing. It's been 4 months. This is still getting worked on, but let's update our numbers because something could have changed here for us, and we could have gotten better, percentages from the distributors or got a new distributor signed up. And it seems like it's the easy button for an estimator to just keep on top of their pricing.
Yeah, we've talked to contractors in the past on this podcast who mentioned that there's a fine line between them deciding to take a job and not take a job. So if you're looking at in the what you mentioned, the example you mentioned earlier is called phasing. You look at the different phases of a job, and as they're going through there, realizing that here's the pricing for this phase, here's the price for that phase, but 3 months later, I might want to go back and double check these things. That gives them a snapshot of, is this job going to be profitable for me? I mean, are we having to put in more into this job, material wise or so forth, that, by checking the pricing during these phases allows you to have a better snapshot of what's going on to see if this is a job you still want to actually pursue or not.
All right. So, well, appreciate all your insights. I know Derek's going to get into some more information here, but having your decades of experience and knowledge really does help dive into this understanding of the benefits of a pricing service. So, let's let everybody get into this episode with Derek. If this is one of your first times joining us or your first time, please subscribe. We're putting out new episodes every Friday. And as always, thank you guys. Sal, great talking to you.
Good talking to you as well.
Take care, everybody. Derek, what are some of the most common mistakes you've seen, I guess, in electrical estimating, or maybe heard from Vision customers that have brought it to you guys? Sort of a common issue that you guys are hearing that are coming back, mistakes they're making, say, they're doing the takeoff and they keep missing something, or they're using your program and something's happening. Was there issues in the past? And I'm sure if there were, that you guys have already addressed them, but issues you guys have heard from your sales team that go, hey, this is something they're dealing with, or something that's going on that we need to get addressed, that you could share with us, that maybe others out there that aren't using Vision are in, having those same issues right now, that they might think they're alone with it, but it really is something that's happening to many across the country.
I have a few. I kinda touched on it we touched on it a little bit earlier as material pricing.
Yeah.
It's interesting the misconceptions there are out there about I don't know, at least that we see with our customers is they get EBM and they start bidding with it, and they think that the pricing just magically is always accurate.
Yeah.
Um, and I understand that. I mean, software is supposed to be like a wizard. It's supposed to do a lot for you, right? There's no limits to what software can do. I mean, there is, but but you want your software to do everything for you. I mean, it's kind of interesting how this might be a little bit of a tangent, but how we get some estimators looking for estimating software, and what they think they want the software to do is a crack up. Like we recently had a customer come to us, and they wanted the software because they didn't have enough estimators, and they had a ton of workload to do with bidding. They wanted the software to create the estimates for them, and they just wanted to be able to say, "Hey, here's the job, here are the plans, what's the bid?" Like,
Sort
what's
of
the
just
so
take a spec PDF or something, or whatever format it comes into, put it into Vision, and then like come back 10 minutes later and it's like, here's your pricing, here's your products, here's all this stuff. And then they go, well, okay, let's go with it or not
Right,
go with it, pretty much.
right.
I mean, it sounds amazing. It's
It
like a
does.
old gumball machine. You walk up, order, and you get a gumball. It's the same thing here. Hey, I walked up, I put some blueprints in my computer and came back after a coffee, and here's my bid.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and with what we're seeing in the news, with AI, I could
Yeah.
understand why some companies or some people might think that
Oh, yeah.
maybe that is possible. I know there's talk out there is, kinda jokingly that AI is gonna replace estimators, but that's I mean, that they're saying that about a lot of industries.
Yeah.
Really what it's doing is it's making people more efficient, and and yeah, maybe it reduces maybe it allows an estimator, or will allow an estimator to do more work in less
Mhm.
time. That's kind of what software did when software came out. I mean, it's a constant evolution of improvement in the tools that we use.
We've talked about it before, and it makes it seem like they don't have to be worried about it. You can never take the human element out. Like
Yeah,
you said, you can't just drop it into the computer. You need that human that
right.
understands everything, but it can give you an assistant that maybe helps with your takeoffs, or when you are trying to do something that's a little bit more mundane, or you have questions, it has that little assistant right there that can help you with those, to like what you were just speaking to.
Yeah.
Makes your life a little bit easier, you know, takes a little bit of off. Yeah.
Yes. So that's we're looking into that
Mhm.
constantly. It's something that, AI needs to advance a little bit. We need to advance a little bit and as a company, and in our research, but we'll definitely be adding in AI capabilities, whether it's, reading the requirements for the job and making sure that like offering up a summary or highlighting what you should be paying attention to basic things like auto naming plan pages, PDF plan pages imported into your plan takeoff, to eventually auto counting electrical symbols with a near perfect accuracy. And I say near because that's subjective, and I don't think it'll ever be perfect because
Yeah.
there's always those
It's
plans.
safer bet not saying 100% either, because
Right,
like you're saying, there's always gonna be that one thing that goes wrong, and then there's gonna be that guy that runs out of nowhere to be like, "Hey, but you said it was 100%." And you're like,
right.
"Well, come
Yeah,
on,
I lost the
really?"
job, or
Like,
I lost money on that job because it didn't count those symbols. Yeah, I know that. The I was talking to a customer at a Nika show like a year ago, and it was an interesting conversation about auto count, and his approach was a little bit the other way around. He wanted to do it all manually, but he wanted to be able to, I think maybe he was like the manager, either the owner manager or the lead estimator overseeing a team, and he wanted to be able to run the auto count feature and then kind of audit what his estimator or he did, to just to see how close it is. Like, is it far off? Did the estimator miss an entire page or something along those lines, or a whole section? So I thought that was an interesting idea to kind of use it, going back to how you were saying assistant, using it as an assistant as opposed to relying on it just to do something for you.
yeah,
But
sort
that
of.
so that got off on a little bit of a tangent, but
Yeah.
but
But, I mean,
that
if you think about it right there, we started this conversation about common mistakes that have
right.
come to you, but AI there doing, like you said, the takeoff, which is really, from what I've learned, very meticulous because 'cause you're going through each individual system on each plan and here and there. You can do it, but as you mentioned, you run the AI at the same time, and maybe you get to the end and you're like, "I have 382," and the AI is like, "There's supposed to be 390," and you're like, "Oh, well, maybe I should go back and try to see if I missed something there." It could it's an issue that's going on, obviously, but it's something that could take care of the issue at that same time.
Right, yep, and it would highlight the ones that you missed so that it would take you seconds to go look at that, and
Yeah.
I so yeah, definitely. I think I started by mentioning the material pricing side of things.
Yeah.
Just to go back to that, I think I had a extra thing I wanted to mention was that was one of the issues with the material pricing, was that they think that the software kinda does it for them,
Yeah.
and you do need to make sure that you have a price update service, which is usually an add-on to estimating software, and then you also need to make sure that it's running properly, updating your estimating software. It's mostly automated, but, you need to pay attention to it. You need to understand it. You should,
Mhm.
it's an important part of your bid, is what the pricing is that's going into your bids. Some people don't wanna rely on it. They think that maybe their region is more expensive, or maybe it's cheaper to get materials, and the kind of the benchmark average pricing that comes in isn't great, or they're getting pricing directly from their supplier, but it doesn't price everything. Like, oftentimes the supplier might only price 75 to 80% of the items on your job. Well, what about those other 10 to 15 to 20% that didn't get priced by your supplier? Are you gonna go and call your supplier and say, "Hey, but what about these items?"
Yeah.
Maybe you will. We have customers that do that, but it's time consuming. So that's where a pricing service comes in. It brings in a comfortable average price that you can rely on. There's a lot to learn when you go to initially buy estimating software. You're coming from the way you're doing it. There's a lot of extra variables that come into play, that's the power of the estimating software. And
Yeah.
one of the goals that we had with EBM was to, I don't want to call it training wheels, but is to make sure that there was a workflow through creating a bid, that if you just did the defaults for almost everything, that you were going to have a winning bid. You were going to make money, and you're going to have a winning bid. Yeah, you can tweak it, you can enhance it, you can make things better, but that's all part of the learning process. And that's what we wanted, was for you to be able to sit down and do an estimate, like we've had someone complete 2 bids while after work going to, as they described, they went to the pub and had a couple pints and were able to create 2 bids comfortably, and they felt good about them, and they hadn't used our software before. So I always remember that story because it kind of blew me away. And he then bought our software because he was just on our trial. And I was like, wow. I was like, okay, he's motivated. But anyway, so other mistakes, other mistakes.
I mean, it seems like you guys, with that story right there, have created this and built it to try to hedge the amount of mistakes that could happen, to make it as simple as possible, to put in place a system that says, okay, hey, if you follow these steps, if you're going through this program this direction, and you just do what we're asking you to do, you're going to get out in the other end and you should be good to go. So,
Right. Yes. And we do include, whether you buy it or not, we do include price updates for the first month. So
mhm.
you don't have anything to worry about. We help make sure it's set up and it's updating for you and everything. And so you don't have anything to worry about. We do kind of put those training wheels on at first, and then you can make your own decision as you move forward.